Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is MWth-SKN, and I would like to present to you about Neutronic analysis of core shape and H/G ratio in small molten salt fast reactor for 20 until 50 megawatt thermal. As we all know, that fossil fuel as our main source of energy is quite bad for environment because it produces greenhouse gases, and we all know that nuclear is one of the solution lies ahead because nuclear energy is green energy and nuclear also have high energy density. But in contrary, we notice that in 2020 nuclear industry growth is far less than bioenergy, wind power, and bioenergy, because as Energy Outlook 2020 says that building nuclear reactor power plant is quite expensive and it's a long-term project, and it is not quite appealing for investor to invest. And also people think about Chernobyl and Fukushima when we talk about nuclear. And so to answer those questions and hardship, I would like to offer a solution. It is molten salt fast reactor and make it a small modular reactor. It is a more safe design as generation 4 molten salt fast reactor has no meltdown scenario, and it has passive safety system, and it has also small access reactivity. And it is possible to build smaller reactor using this type of reactor, and it also, if we make it smaller, it is also time saving, and if we make it smaller also, it will be more cheap. And last but not least, it's still green energy. And the aim of my study here is to design most effective small modular reactor of molten salt fast reactor geometry viewed from neutronic aspect. And I use Standard Thermal Reactor Analysis Code System, or SRAC, version 2006 using PIG and citation module. And I use JENDL4 for nuclear library. And I took a reference of molten salt fast reactor, which is a France-built molten salt fast reactor, and it has 3000 megawatt thermal power, and it has around 1 meter of core radius and around 2 meters of core heights. And this is the reactor diagram that I use for my calculation. For A area, it is fuel, which consists of LEF 77.5% and thorium-4 and also uranium-4. And on B area, it is fertile blanket, which consists of lithium fluoride and thorium fluoride. And for C area, it is absorber, which is made of boron carbide. And for D area, it is external structure, and it made of nickel-based alloy. And here is the result that I found. It's quite fascinating because for 50 megawatt thermal power output, it only has the radius of 45.7 centimeter and core heights for 82.3 centimeters. And the most effective H/G ratio is on 0.9, which is it is a pancake core type. And for 30 megawatt thermal output, it also reached by model D, which is around 40 centimeter in radius and 70 centimeters in core heights, and it also have H/D ratio for 0.9 and pancake core type. And for 20 megawatt thermal, it is also reached by model D, and it reached around 40 centimeters in core radius and around 70 in core heights, and it also has H/D for 0.9, and it is a pancake core type. And this is the multiplication factor, effective multiplication factor for 50 megawatt thermal, and I would like to introduce you to the new composition that I use for this result, which is 85% of lithium fluoride, 10% of thorium fluoride, and 4% of uranium fluoride. It reached 1.0 0 to 5 on multiplication factor, and it gradually decrease until not so far from 1.0 to 5. It means that it has less of excess reactivity. And by this picture, we also notice that on model D, which is H per D 0.9, it belongs up here. It means that it is the most effective and has the least of leakage. And on 30 megawatt thermal energy output, and I would like to introduce to you to the new composition, which is 85% of lithium fluoride and 10% of thorium fluoride and 5% of uranium. It's also reached by model D over here, which is make it the most effective H per D ratio. And on 20 megawatt thermal energy output, I would like to introduce to you to the new composition again, which is 89% of lithium fluoride and thorium, and 8.1% of thorium and 3.9% of uranium. And model D is staying up here, which is make it the most effective model. Compared to the other reactor producing the same amount of power, notice that on 30 megawatt thermal, South Russia has 3.5 meter on diameter and 24 meter in heights. And also for Toshiba, for 30 megawatt thermal, it also has 3.5 meter in diameter and 6 meter in height. And in comparison, this model reached only around 90 centimeters in diameter for 50 megawatt thermal power and 1.7 meter in height. And it leads to our conclusion that the most effective core shape for 50 megawatt thermal, 30 megawatt thermal, and 20 megawatt thermal is pancake shape with H over D ratio on 0.9. And smaller reactor size can be achieved with molten salt fast reactor as SMR compared to the other. And it also proved that small modular reactor made of MSR is quite small and it's easily mobilized. Suggestions for further research. We are needed to acknowledge the relationship between the core geometry and full composition, and further research also are needed to cover thermal hydraulic aspect. And thank you very much for your attention. I wish you a good day. Thank you so much.